Thanks everyone who's tuning in. I'm Zaji, part of the ecosystem marketing team here, and also leading a lot of the marketing for Build, which is what we're talking about today. So that's why I'm so excited that we're here. I'm joined by amazing panelists from the Build program that are in their own respective fields doing incredible things. So I would love to kick it off by asking each of you to introduce yourselves and letting us know what project you're working on and a little bit more about each of yourselves. So I will go ahead and kick it off with Rasmus, and then we'll just keep going down the line.
Nice. Hi, Sashi. Nice to be here. It's a pleasure. My name is Rasmus. I work for Planned.ix. I'm the CMO at Planned.ix. And I have a background from the music industry. So I was brought on by Planet last year because they needed some more flexibility. I think in the area, like the blockchain industry is not particularly different in a lot of ways from the music industry. And I spent a lot of time also on blockchain. And it's a small space, small world, and you can't operate the same ways that a lot of bigger companies can do in the real world, if you want to say that. So it's been really nice to draw on a lot of that experience in this industry. It's been really interesting.
Very cool. And there's such a big resurgence in like music, NFTs and everything. So I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. So we're not talking about that today, but nice to hear about your background. Okay, very cool. Kevin, if you want to jump in.
I'm the global head of growth at bitsCrunch, which is an NFT data forensics and analytics platform to dive deep into NFTs and all of their happenings. And so I was actually more of a Web2 guy. I've been in Web2 and tech for about 13 years. I was an ex-tech CEO, and then I actually joined this project because I thought it was really, really useful and really helpful. So I came on about almost a year ago now at bitsCrunch. And we're just doing great moves with respect to helping a lot of platforms, companies, and other NFT related lending protocols, crypto insurance, and AML to provide the proper insights for NFTs and NFT based data across multiple chains.
Fantastic, thank you. And then Andras.
Hi, my name is Andras. I've been a technologist for much more I want to remember, and I got into the space, the blockchain space, 10 years ago, 2013. Bitcoin was $30, Ethereum did not exist. We started with building the first Bitcoin ATMs in Asia. Right now, we are working on Galaxis, Galaxis.xyz, which is a Web3-based community builder and management tool, and basically enables anyone or any entity with a community to monetize their own creativity and provide real value to their community, and then letting that community provide value back and provide sustenance for that project or entity.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. And we've worked a lot with Galaxis in the past, so excited that you're part of Builds now, and grateful that you're all here. So great. Thanks for kicking that off, everyone. Okay, cool. So I would love to jump into the next question, which is focused around the Builds program. Want to know what inspired you to join it and what the experience has been like so far. Maybe you want to also tie it a little bit more into each of your projects and the verticals you're in. So let's go with Kevin on this one to get started.
Okay. So the way in which our infrastructure works is we take a lot of on-chain data and we take a lot of cross-chain data to get into more of the NFT data analytics. But because we blend a lot of this with our AI and machine learning models, we actually take a lot of off-chain data as well. And so it's been a huge interest, I think, from our perspective, and then also from the other people that were actually here prior to Oliver Birch joining in the off-chain data that we were bringing on-chain. And so a lot of the speculative investments and financial rewards, incentives, et cetera, that come from NFTs specifically are also from off-chain events. So such as social media hype or Google searches or other collection marketing and other ways in which things are promoted through celebrities, Instagram, et cetera. And so we've taken a lot of this data that's off-chain and bring it on and blending it with our on-chain kind of AI and machine learning models. And so it's been great to kind of work with Chainlink the past, I guess it's been about 6-7 months now. And then also to work also very closely with other people in the Build program such as Trueflation, to see how we can kind of like start combining a lot of these different technical aspects across multiple different partners in the build program. So far it's been great. I think that Chainlink's been really helpful and instrumental in helping get the word out about our project. There's a lot of NFT based projects that are also grabbing data from Chainlink, and so I think from a resource perspective, it's been really good to make obviously new friends and obviously make really great partnerships, but essentially to kind of promote and kind of solidify our off-chain and on-chain bridging strategy. So
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of overlap there, and we're really grateful that it's been a good synergy there. So fantastic. Andras, if you want to jump in too.
Sure. We have been working with Chainlink for many years now, and we consider Chainlink to be our best technology partner. So we have received a lot of very great things from this partnership, from this collaboration. The two things that we are using in general is obviously data that has to come from the outside of blockchain. We use them in many projects, including small artists to all the way up to the NBA when game data was actually placed on the chain. And the other thing is that is critically important, but never gets enough limelight is randomization, random data. Using the VRF function is absolutely necessary for a project like this. When you have anything to do with gaming, anything to do with any sort of randomness or raffles, you need to get verifiable random numbers, which is surprisingly difficult to get in a blockchain environment where everything is predetermined. So being able to utilize VRF from Chainlink is absolutely essential for everything that we build. And kind of when we are looking at a new chain, whether we should go there or not, first what we do is we check, is there VRF? Is there VRF? We can consider integrating with that. If there is no VRF, we stay away. And so this and the many other things that we have been receiving, including the new technology that Chainlink is rolling out in beta, is this multi-chain technology, which will enable our membership cards to be able to seamlessly move within the 6 supported chains. So yes, I think we are using everything that Chainlink has to offer.
Yeah, you guys are our biggest supporters, I feel like. Amazing. And I do always say, like, randomness is a lot harder than you would think to achieve. So we're really excited that you're using VRF. Rasmus, go ahead.
Yeah, nice. I mean, what Andras is saying is the main reason we are also very happy with working with you guys in the build program is the VRF calls that we're having. I mean, our game is pretty big. I forgot to say that initially, but yeah, we have a pretty big.
Yeah, I was gonna say, talk a little bit more about Planet IX.
Yeah, Planet IX is like a layered play to earn game. There's a heavy gamified component, so we really try to implement the DeFi optionalities in it, and we are trying to make a lot of layers. So you have to apply strategy. You have to figure out where should you go, what should you do. And currently we're also working on adding a lot of PvP elements. So we want to try to make sure that it's fun to play, and that you also that you're at least like, you need to think a little bit. It's not just like a typical click and farm and wait to earn more, but that it's something that people actually want to spend some time on. And because we have a lot of layers, we're really dependent on the VRF call, the randomness. And that was the reason we also really happy to work with you guys, because we have a lot of users. I think right now we have 110,000 active monthly wallets, and I think maybe some are playing on more. So we estimate around 50 to 60,000 players playing on one or more accounts, and a lot of VRF calls. And so for us, it was like, okay, we really need the most trusted place and options so that we could make sure that there would never be any question from people like, is this really random or not? And so there was only one place for us that made sense to get that. And it's been a pleasure to join the build program and also to work closely with your crew and be able to also see the new things, like Andras said, with the beta, being able to work on what's coming so you can implement it, get some help from you guys. It makes everything a lot more efficient than building in the dark. I know our developers are extremely happy with the collaboration.
Yeah, we're grateful for that. And it is really nice to be able to give you all access to exclusive, beta opportunities and new products that are launching. And so if anybody's interested in joining Build, these are some of the things that you do get access to as part of the program. Great. So let's jump into more of the side of actually building your projects and what it is that you're focused on day to day. And we'd like to go with asking you each, how are you addressing the challenges of scalability and security in your projects through Builds? There's a lot going on in that question, so I'd love to hear how you're each doing that. If anybody wants to kick that off,
I can go.
Let's do it.
Scalability is basically we need to go with a layer 2 solution or a sidechain solution. Right now we are actually using Polygon, but as soon as we're going to get support from the new optimistic rollup chains, we will probably start using those as well. So scalability, Ethereum is relying on layer 2s or sidechains, and I think this is the best way to get to use that. What was the other one? Privacy or security?
Yeah, scalability and security.
Security is a multifaceted question. First of all, we need to make sure that the contracts are safe enough and audited by external parties. But more importantly, we need to make sure that our customers' data and community members' data is safe. And the best way to do that, and I think more projects should actually be using this approach, by not collecting the data. And in this way, one of the things that we are doing, that the platform is doing, is basically enables technically tradable user accounts. You can have one of these membership cards, which is like a very, very dynamic NFT with a lot of features and functions, and utilize them as an old school user account without actually taking any data from your customers. So there is no big database that can be broken into, stolen, and sold on the dark web. And if you don't collect data, you cannot lose it. And I think this is something that is a very important principle that it's too easy to forget. But we in Web3 should not be making the same mistakes again and again that we have done in Web2. And I think the technology that we are getting from the blockchain and from Chainlink really enables us to rethink the business processes in this way and create workable, feasible user account systems without actually collecting any user data. And I think if we can keep it up, we can actually solve some of these problems of our data and life being sold for the highest bidder.
Yeah, you have a point there for sure. There's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of different ways that you could be addressing this. Well, thank you, Andras, for your thoughts. And then maybe Rasmus, if you want to jump in.
Yeah. I think Andras said everything pretty well. What we focused on is providing a lot of anonymity for the user and keeping everything on chain, not collecting any off-chain data on them at all. We started off with emails. You need to sign up with that, but as fast as we could, completely switched to just a wallet sign up, just because so that there's nothing to be scared of in that sense. And the only reason also we waited a little bit was that we brought on a lot of our users came from Web2, and when we got them, they didn't know a lot about the space. So we spent the first year or more like really making sure that they arrived safely. Because I remember when I was also introducing some friends some years ago into this, like it's super daunting to come in and the space, and it's always moving faster, and there's a lot of bad actors still in the space that can easily give people bad experience. So we really tried to spend some time first. We kept the emails for them to not, otherwise it was just too difficult for them to just go full on for a wallet. So I think that is, of course, that's a tricky part. Like how do you deal with Web2 into Web3 without a data collection part? We've been working with some wallets that does this kind of like where it's seamless for them. but we haven't implemented it yet. And I'm not fully into, maybe you know, Andras, like how much is there of data collection on that other side, and how much does that touch your project if you're fully on chain? I'm not sure actually about that.
We can talk about that later, maybe in a separate conversation. We'd be very, very happy to help.
Nice.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the onboarding experience is so important, and so being able to capture your users at that phase is critical to the success of the project for sure. Kevin.
Yeah, definitely to Rasmus's point and then Andras's point is it's been difficult because especially when you take like, you know, in the use cases, when you have a lot of off-chain data that you're trying to bring on, a lot of that use case also comes from a lot of Web 2 into Web 3. And so like that bounce is important in how you kind of obviously scale the security, but also scale the data as well. And so it's been, I'd say, kind of increasingly difficult for us who get a lot of on-chain data from, you know, the open seas of the world and you know, just trading volumes and NFTs, and there's no real, you know, telling as to how accurate this data is, or do they even care, because a lot of, you know, NFT money is made on resales of whether or not they're wash traded or frauded or inflated in value or whatever it is. And so I think it's been challenging, and I think that the tech team's done a really good job as to how we onboard kind of new users who want to get into the NFT space, how we you know, have like, for example, a Google sign up, but now we're working with other companies, for example, like Ethermail, that can start creating like, you know, wallet-based email accounts and email newsletters to get the word out for, you know, community building and all this kind of stuff. And we have Wallet Connect, but what does Wallet Connect mean to someone who's only used to using Gmail and so logging in with Google? And so we have this one aspect that we're trying to figure out ways to jump over that. But then when it comes back to the on-chain data, scaling that in a more decentralized manner has actually been a really big, I'd say challenge, but essentially right now we're building on a decentralization model where people can connect their wallets that are holding NFTs, and we can actually do multiple analyses in all these wallets and actually decentralize that data, and then use other node providers to be able to kind of siphon that through, and then, you know, get them to take a look at that data. So it's been difficult because like NFT data inherently is all just like held by, you know, the open seas of the world, and it's kind of like another version too of, you know, Google or only one company or one set of companies that are holding a lot of this data. And so we're going to kind of bring it back down to the user level. And so Chainlink's going to help with that a lot, I think, especially when they're trying to scale like the off-chain data, bring it on, and then be able to decentralize that through other like node providers. But yeah, I think that it's been increasingly difficult, but I think we're finally, you know, finding a way to make it accessible for everyone, and then also kind of just like real-time information that has not been played with or manipulated in any kind of way. Like it's just like, this is like, you know, these are the raw numbers, and then packaging that in a way that's understandable for novice people all the way to, you know, VCs, investors, and other like, you know, master holders that are holding, you know, a lot of NFTs. And as we get more close into kind of the NFT utility side of things, when we start tokenizing real estate or memberships or, you know, event tickets, that's going to kind of become a lot more important, because we're going to have a lot of real world kind of fiat revenue, you know, like through the ticket masters of the world that are really going to be affected by this. When we start bringing a lot of this like centralized piece on chain over, it doesn't really compute. So it'll kind of also help us do that the opposite way as well.
Yeah, bridging that gap between Web 2 and Web 3. You're getting a lot of clap and emoji responses in the chat. Cool. So I guess you're relating to everyone, which is great. Cool. Well, as you all, you know, begin onboarding these new users and start working with all these partners that you've all been talking about, what are some of the key marketing strategies that you've used to accelerate that growth? That is why we're here, Web3 Marketing Masterminds group. So let's jump into the marketing side of things. Anybody can kick it off. Fine, I'll pick.
I can give it a go.
Go for it.
So yeah, I mean, ours has actually been a little interesting, given that when we started off, we had the ability to onboard like 100,000 users in, which was a really interesting opportunity, but it created this scenario where we needed to hire a lot. So you know, it's Nibiru software that built PlanIX is rather young, and we had the opportunity, the founders had the opportunity to bring in these people from Web 2 And so all of a sudden we had to get, like, there was a lot of people to come in, and we were building a product, and that meant, okay, we need to hire, people need to hire fast. This was before I was brought on. And so that was kind of maybe like a shock of size of the users we already had. So people needed to hire a lot and fill out all kind of positions and figure a lot of things out on the go, and build it well and onboard and all this. And then when we eventually got a lot, the company got a lot of people hired, that's when the market started to turn around. So then everything went downhill real fast. And so people, like, attention left the space, money left the space. So we got pinched a little bit with this like really, really big startup project with a lot of users. And all of a sudden, like, a lot of people hired that we need to consider, okay, what do we actually have of marketing spend? What do we have of hire spend to keep building? And so this was around when I was brought on. So that was a little bit of a chaotic time to arrive. But I mean, for me, it was really, 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 really good to have a lot of experience with being flexible and really agile and coming up with alternative solutions to things and being creative in approaches. It's also a little harder, of course, in this space still to market in a traditional sense. So I mean, we had to cut a lot of costs on the marketing front. So what we focused on instead was to leverage the community, the energy that is in the communities. And we hired we moved some hires around, brought on someone to get the community closer to us and try to, build on their enthusiasm for the game and grow via them in the real world. We have a lot of players that meet up in the real world and like have their own online communities where they meet and talk about it. And so they are really good advocates of the game. That was one approach we spent good efforts on. And then we also really went for partnerships, like really tried to pick a lot of good partnerships, go in with a win-win mentality and try to create as much as with sharing. And I think that has also landed us a lot of extra attention, and we definitely were able to build on these partnerships. And then like, at least one thing that I learned in the music industry is that there's not a lot of people in reality there. Even though from sometimes outside can look big, it's not that big at all. And reputation matters a lot. So if you're a douchebag or annoying or not nice when you have a lot of meetings and such, that word travel fast. But if you actually try to build something lasting in a partnership, that also travels well. So I mean, we definitely prioritize these things, like just building something solid, engaging the community, and then spending time and effort on partnerships and making sure that it was good experiences for everyone.
Yeah, no, great words of advice. This space is small and reputation does matter. So how you interact with everyone can really take you far. Yeah. Who else wants to jump in?
May I?
All right, go for it.
And this is my turn now to say that I can just repeat what Rasmus said, because partnerships, very important. Traditional marketing does not work, or a lot of time it doesn't work. What works is community and community engagement, and reputation is extremely important. So basically, he said everything that I think that I wanted to say. So thank you very much.
Yeah, totally.
I would definitely agree. I think with Rasmus and with respect to kind of doing some stuff and like customer onboarding and marketing, in the bear market, it's try launching your actual beta product during the very start of a bear market, right after Terra went dump. And so, I think as an ex-SaaS CEO, I think I had made the mistake on the growth side of just being like, oh, we can just do a SaaS model, and then all the different companies will be paying on a monthly basis for this, and I've done this before and it's fine. And then what happens is that people are now worth like 10% of what they were worth a couple months prior, and we had to kind of re-evolve and figure out, okay, so let's work on a freemium model. Let's figure out how we can get users on board to validate our MVPs and everything. And I think that it's working a lot better. So we've, just also to Andras's point, like partnerships are very important. We rely and we provide a lot of services with our partners. And one of the big things that I think that was really helpful was just creating access as from like, we launched a startup program. We have about 40 in the program. It was only launched about 2 months ago. These guys are now have access to our APIs. They're getting on weekly and bi-weekly calls with us to discuss about this stuff. Then we're doing marketing and pushing out to their communities to understand the importance and the value. And so again, I come from, a Web2 space where it's like, we don't have this luxury of sometimes becoming like almost a non-for-profit organization with a token. And so it's a quite different model, but I'd say that, really like relying heavily on the value you can provide, bringing it to people that see that value, and then creating that growth. I mean, all these startups eventually will be paying customers when they have to get to a certain level of, API calls and whatever. But it's the entry point in which we can create a lot of really easy, seamless and frictionless points where they can understand the value of what we're doing. And I think that multiplying that as much as possible has been quite important for us. So it was a bit of a struggle, again, not gonna lie, but and now we have Unleash NFTs, which is our B2C platform where you can connect your wallet, check your NFTs in your portfolio, automatically analyze whether or not they've been, inflated in value, or you've bought a wash traded NFT that's not really the value it was, or fraudulent, or whatever it is. And so now that we have more user growth and community growth, we can start kind of like, cascading from one level to the next, and kind of creating, these big like B2B and B2C offerings that are going to prove like, long-term success. So.
Yeah. And I think what was key about what you said was how you pivoted, right? Like sometimes coming into this space, you may not know what works, and it's important not to just get stuck. It's important to keep growing, keep trying new things. You never know what might stick. Cool. Well, thanks for answering that. And so diving more into community, you each talked about community and how important it was. Do you have any specific engagement strategies when it comes to communities that you've found to have been effective in driving user adoption and growth? Maybe that might be a better place to focus on, since that seems to be what's important right now. Maybe Andras, if you could kick that off.
This is interesting because the platform what we are building is catering for communities. So technically, anybody or any entity with a community, you can be an actor, an artist, an athlete, a YouTuber, a cosplayer, or even like a politician. As long as you have a community, you should be able to provide something for your community that community appreciates and values. And when I'm talking about values, it doesn't mean necessarily monetary values, but values that make sense in the context of that particular community. And as long as you can give that to your community, that community will engage and will provide sustenance for you as well. That said, what I think is different from traditional ways of approaching this, that as long as you can capture and engage your community's imagination, as long as they can provide them a narrative that they can run it and take it as their own and build their world around that community, they will be very happy and very engaged and very supportive to that particular community. So what we are actually trying to build towards is that it's not the how much value you can extract from your customer over the lifetime of the project, but more like how much engagement you can expect to have from your member of your community, which worth much more on the long term than value and customers. And this is, I think, comes hand in hand. I'm sorry for getting back to this. The way how this kind of projects can actually be made sustainable or monetized, not by collecting information, not by kind of harvesting your customers' data and information and the ability to support you, but more like providing things to them that they want, and actually creating a long-running community where you can have a lot of community members be very active in that particular project. And if you can build that, if you can get the minds and the hearts of your community members and not your customers, then you will have a great project that will be able to run for a long term.
Yeah, and I really liked your point about imagination and creating this world for your users, right? And maybe Rasmus, like coming from the gaming side, you're probably doing this a lot, so it might be good to jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, we have two ways that we're approaching it right now. One is taking longer, and the other is we're doing now is because we have a lot of users. We've been focused on adding new things. So we've been in this insane build mode. I mean, I haven't been in the space as long as Andras have, but I've been here for a little more than a handful of years, and I've rarely seen a project that rolled out so much as this project. That is also one of the reasons I joined, because I just saw the productivity of the team was just sky high, and this has definitely reflected a lot in user activity in our game. Like we kept building like different layers that would like make everything connect, and all the NFT assets are like really interconnected. So there's a lot of fun and things for people to do and to earn. And then again, also what Andras is saying is in terms of like sustainable value over time, we are very much focused on putting as much as we can back into the ecosystem and not extract it. And so we are, of course, somewhat also dependent on outside money and investments into building this. And we're taking an approach that is saying we need to think long term. We need to build an ecosystem that's healthy. And that's, I mean, if other people are building something maybe of a smaller scale, it might be different things, different approaches. Like figure out, like, are you building big or building small? Can you start small and can you then scale it up somehow later? Because it's, I mean, if you're building sustainable, you're gonna have to play the long game, and that might not always be the easiest to see. It might, like, the step you need to take might not be what makes the most sense right in that moment. So, I mean, what we are now, I'm getting a little off track here, but what we're doing with the game now is just making sure people have a lot of stuff to come back to, making sure that they understand that we put a lot of value back into the ecosystem, so they're always rewarded by participation. Much how I think that a lot of the space works, you know, if you're first into the NFT space, maybe you made some bad trades or something, but you probably got rewarded through airdrops, you know, and it was the same with DeFi. Like maybe you lost money on the food craze that was in DeFi summer, but you probably got, you know, made whole somehow by airdrops later if you paid attention. So we were trying to implement the same thing that people and they're learning. That's what we're seeing. Like they're learning, oh, wait a minute, it pays off if I keep playing and stay active. I've been rewarded multiple times, so I will probably keep doing it. So that is our focus. And then the next thing that we're building on is this. What this creates is the issue of something that becomes quite complex. And so that means to people who's in it, it's not a problem. They love that there's more complexity. But from a new player just approaching our game, it'll take them some time to understand. So that is the next thing we're working on now. We're building like a way easier onboarding into the universe and ecosystem we have, which is what we're doing through like PvP gaming, really simple games we brought on, and we merged in Ethereum-based project that were building NFTs, games inside NFTs, and they build really simple old school arcade games. And they have a nice smart contract that enables basically esports with autonomous prize pools and bracket systems, everything on chain. And we're trying to implement this so that there can be like a road into our game, so you get exposure to playing our game much more simple than what the main game is. And I think yeah, that's a little bit back to you know, also marketing, getting users in. And it's what Kevin on said, that's super hard. It's also really hard getting people from Web 2 into Web 3. It's not as easy as sometimes as you like. In theory, it sometimes sounds like it should be not a problem, but it is harder than you think sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why the short term and the long term strategy are so important, and it's great that you guys are thinking of that. Kevin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that, you know, when we had really kind of started our community growth, I think it was like a lot of buzz created around that. You want to be this big hot startup that's funded by Animoca and all these guys. And like, we have a whole bunch of people that had kind of not really understood what our value points were at the very beginning. And again, that we kind of give that as well to the point that we hadn't got a product out to market. And so essentially, I have to give it to the marketing team, because like they've just like done this amazing kind of like rebound and markup on like just our value points and certain ways in which we're getting community members involved now. And because you know, we're essentially a platform that combats, you know, BS in the market. And so it's been, if I can be really honest, like there's a lot of players in the market that don't want to use us because they're making a whole bunch of money. And so it's been this really weird kind of catch-22 between finding the right value points and then people still not wanting to use that because it's not beneficial to them in the short term. And so we are playing the long game. And I think that, you know, we've really like hit home on what the value points are for people that it actually does matter to, and then focusing more on those pieces, because, you know, we weren't originally going to do any kind of like, you know, wallet interaction and wallet connect and all this kind of stuff, because, you know, a lot of people just needed to be educated first as why this even matters in the first place. And so the educational side is kind of like come full circle. There's a lot of people that are coming in now that are a lot more involved into our community. And then we've actually just hired someone who was from a company called Tokensoft, who launched certain projects such as Avalanche, and he's running our community now on my team. And he's really like taking all these value points really home and focusing as to like, where do we find these people that actually appreciate this value? Because a lot of people don't. And a lot of guys that are just, you know, like we did for example, an article on the largest whale who sold off 1,000 NFTs in 1 week, and 70% of them were wash traded by him. So it's like, you know, and it's like, it's tough when you have these people that are also part of the community that are not part of the community at all. They're just there to actually make money off the rest of the community. And so it has been difficult. But, you know, again, it's just like hold true on the value points, hold true on the decentralization of data, give everyone back the power, and then, you know, make it really accessible and easy to understand what that value is, aside from just kind of saying like, you know, talking about features all the time. Features this, features that, sure, but it's like, what does it mean to me? I only have one NFT versus a guy who has 1,000 NFTs who actually doesn't want to have any wash trading, you know, statistics and reports that are kind of being open to the public. So it has been difficult, but I think we're doing a pretty good job now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so interesting that you wrote an article, and that definitely dropped the article.
We're doing it a lot now. We're doing like all these articles like every week around like something we find, someone who's like, you know, illegally using the McDonald's logo in their NFT collection. Like McDonald's doesn't even know yet, but these guys have made like 600K in resale volume, you know, in like 2 weeks. So it's interesting what we're finding these days. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have such interesting content for sure. Well, great. Thank you guys for answering all those questions and diving deep into your strategies. We do appreciate it. We only have a couple minutes left, so I do want to answer one question I saw in the Q&A. It says, this is from Aditya. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I'm a first year in my college and we've started building a startup for blockchain. What do you think we should focus on? So obviously that's a pretty wide question, but maybe let's think of it maybe from the perspective of them being like an early stage maybe developer or builder, maybe being on the younger side, being in school. Maybe do you have any advice for somebody that's just getting started building a blockchain startup? If anybody wants to jump in.
May I get started? I think the most important would be for them to understand what are the value propositions of the technologies. What does the blockchain is good for? It is good for very few things, but for those few things, only the blockchain is good for them. So don't try to build a Facebook button blockchain, a Twitter button blockchain, or things like that. Make sure that you understand what is that uniqueness that the blockchain can provide. And by the way, it is the ability to transfer value between entities without a third party. It is whether it's a monetary value or like an IP value or any other kind of value, but this is about it. And as long as you can build something that utilizes that actual value proposition, you can make it successful. But if you build something something random, but with blockchain, it is probably not going to be successful on the long term. That's it.
Yeah. Thinking through where the blockchain aspect comes in and if it's really the right fit for your project. Great. Did anybody else want to jump in, or?
I would just say, I mean, find a particular subset or group of people in Web3 in the community of blockchain, crypto, et cetera, and just give them something that really matters. It's there's always these ideas that are coming out, and I've seen this, and I've seen, like Facebook on blockchain, and I've seen, so it's like, does it actually matter? Does it move the needle for a certain, like subset of the Web3 space? And I think, for example, like, Planet IX is creating a massive platform of gaming potential. If you do NFTs, we should actually talk also, Rasmus. But at the same time, I think that, you need to focus on what moves the needle for people. A nice to have is not a nice to have unless there's a reason why they really need to use the product and to get involved. And if you take a look at even like, all the tokens that are historically just like growing consistently over time, like Chainlinks, like, I think Arbitrum is going to be good, Ethereum, all these are just platforms in which people are, first of all, building on top of. You're not just one card in the deck that's sitting on the table. Like, all these are actual tables, and they're things that are be built across, and they solve a multitude of problems and applications across, multiple aspects. So I would say that if you have a certain, community of people that require something or having huge pain points, focus on that and then apply it to that particular subset of community.
Yeah, great advice. And then just to keep going, Rasmus, maybe you could take the next one. We have a couple
I just want to say,
I
actually want to add something too, because I think what both Kevin and Andras says is 100%. The one thing that I want to add also that that comes from a lot of my own experience with building startups is make sure that you find something that you really enjoy building or making. I mean, make sure that you find passion in it, because it's probably not going to be easy. You're probably not going to be one of the million people that get really lucky. You're probably going to have to really work for it. So if you are not really passionate about it, or if you don't really have a drive or a fire inside you to build this, then there's a good chance you're going to tap out at one point, because there's a lot of competition also, and there's a lot of people willing to really work hard, work their asses off for it. So make sure that you also enjoy it, because otherwise it's not going to be, then it's no fun. You need to enjoy it.
You can get burned out really easily also. Like, I started working 100%. In a space when I was like really young, and it was hard to keep that momentum going as I've continued through the space. Andras goes 100%. So yeah, definitely keep it going. Great question, Aditya. Okay, just a couple more questions. Sayan asked, how do we approach blockchain developers or building a blockchain developer community? So maybe more so the developer side, if anybody has any advice there.
I can go quickly just because we've launched our startup and dev program recently, and I think that devs as individuals, and maybe some dev companies, dev shops, they inherently just want to solve problems also. And so if you can help them, create a channel in which they can kind of, be incentivized to a certain way, but also focus on the devs and startups and other companies that want to actually use your product to be able to kind of make theirs better. It's another incentive as well, not just monetary compensation or tokens or POAP or whatever. And so, it's identifying like what kind of developers you want and what problems they're going to solve for a specific project or idea that you have, and see how their mind works. So I think a lot of these guys do this, like as Rasmus mentioned, like out of passion, because they really love, just to solve these problems and make the space better or whatever. So I would probably suggest that if you have a project or something you want, you should probably go into those places where they're hanging out and certain, like, whether it's hackathons or whatever, and then go to a subset of the people in the hackathon and be like, hey, this is my thing. I know that you focus on this specifically because you have a passion about it. That'd probably be the best way to access them. That's what we do.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. Did you want to answer that, Andras?
Just a little bit, because there are two very interesting things that is very specific to blockchain development. One is that what we found is that people who has experience writing succinct code, very code with as less steps as possible, like people who are writing code for like microchips or where every every operand matters, where every command matters. This is what you need for blockchain, because when you are executing a blockchain code, you pay for every command. So people who has experience with thinking with this mindset usually turn out to be a good blockchain programmers. The second thing is that cannot be understated is that blockchain development is incredibly stressful. I have seen many developers technically sweating all over when they were putting some code to live, because they knew that that code will potentially handle millions and millions of dollars of value. And if they made one mistake, they will make a lot of people lose their money. This is a stress that nobody really understands until they are there to deploy their code to live. This is a very unique for this particular field.
Yeah, this space is very unique. There's a lot going on here, lots of nuances, and we appreciate all of you answering these questions with your different perspectives. Okay, we are pretty much out of time. There was just one last question, if maybe somebody wants to answer it really quickly. Somebody asked, Naresh asked, like Stack Overflow, what is the best forum to post and solve real-time problems in blockchain technology? Does anybody have an answer to that? Anybody have any thoughts there?
I do not.
There is a specific kind of system for blockchains, but I don't remember the title because I'm not doing active development anymore. But I think that he's in the right direction, looking.
Okay, well, we'll find the answer for you, Naresh, and we'll send it your way after this. Perfect. All right, well, we are out of time, but I want to just thank Rasmus, Kevin, and Andras so much for their time, for sharing their thoughts with us. We know you guys are busy guys, so thank you for everything. If you're interested in the Build program, it is designed to help early stage and established Web3 projects grow and get enhanced access to Chainlink services, and we would love to see you all apply. And thank you, each of you, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For the time. It was
Awesome.
a pleasure.
Everyone, have a great day.
Bye.